If you've been taking L-arginine thinking it's going to make your erections harder and stronger, I need to tell you something that might surprise you. It's probably not working the way you think it is. In fact, if you've been taking it regularly for months, it could actually be making things worse over time, blocking the very molecule your body needs for firm, reliable erections. The supplement industry has convinced millions of men that more arginine equals more nitric oxide, which equals better blood flow and harder erections. The logic sounds perfect, but here's what they don't tell you. Most men aren't deficient in arginine, and when you flood your system with extra, your body converts it into a compound that actually blocks nitric oxide production and damages your blood vessels. But the good news? There are other natural powders, ones that work through a completely different pathway that can genuinely help without the hidden risks. Tonight, I'm showing you exactly which powders are safer, why they work better, how much to take, and the one timing mistake that kills the results before they even start. This is Dr. Laura Bennett, and let's talk about what actually works. Let's break down why L-arginine might seem helpful at first, but why it doesn't work in most cases and can even backfire. Arginine is an amino acid that your body uses to make nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is the molecule that vasodilates or widens blood vessels to allow blood to properly fill the penis and create an erection. So the logic sounds simple. More arginine should lead to more nitric oxide, which should lead to stronger erections. It sounds great, right? But in reality, most men don't have an L-arginine deficiency. Your body already gets it from food and produces it on its own. And when you start taking extra supplements, your body doesn't know what to do with it. It doesn't automatically turn it into more nitric oxide. Here's the thing. Whatever you take inside your body has to be used for something and then removed. So when you take high levels of L-arginine, instead of creating large amounts of nitric oxide, the extra can actually be converted into a more harmful metabolite called ADMA, asymmetric dimethylarginine. ADMA actually blocks nitric oxide production by blocking a very important enzyme called nitric oxide synthase, or NOS. ADMA is so dangerous because once it blocks the production of nitric oxide, this blockade leads to blood vessel dysfunction, or endothelial cell dysfunction, otherwise known as cardiovascular disease or heart disease. So instead of helping, if you're taking L-arginine or adding the powder to your smoothies, you could actually end up making things worse over time. That's why before taking a scoop of L-arginine, you need to know whether or not you're truly deficient. Otherwise, it will seem like it's helping temporarily, but in the long term, it can backfire. L-arginine powder only works if your body is genuinely lacking it. But some powders can actually boost your nitric oxide levels safely and effectively. One of the most powerful and popular erection boosters is beetroot powder. In a moment, I'll tell you what can be hazardous about beetroot powder for some people. Because beetroot works differently through a completely different pathway than L-arginine powder, its power isn't in the amino acid, it's in the nitrates, the same nitrates you get if you eat leafy greens. When you consume beetroot powder, bacteria on your tongue first activate the nitrate to help it become a nitrate, and then enzymes in the body create nitric oxide. Basically, oral nitrates like beetroot bypass that system that limits the effectiveness of L-arginine. Another key difference is that L-arginine's effect can be short and inconsistent, whereas nitrates work gently. They last longer and over time can actually help heal your body's ability to make more nitric oxide by gradually dilating blood vessels, improving circulation, and supporting gut health so that your erections get stronger. You may even lower your blood pressure and enhance endurance. That's why athletes love beet juice or beetroot powder before workouts. It actually does improve oxygen delivery to the muscles. But there are a few things I want you to keep in mind about beetroot powder. Yes, you can take it regularly, and many men notice it helps with erections, but there are some important cautions. First, beets and beetroot powders are very high in oxalates. Oxalates are natural compounds that in high amounts can bind with calcium and create crystals that turn into kidney stones, worsen kidney function, and even crystallize in joints, worsening arthritis. So if you suffer from arthritis or have a history of kidney stones or kidney dysfunction, high oxalates in beetroot are not a good idea. Secondly, not all beetroot powders are created equal. When beetroot powders are analyzed in labs, many of the cheaper ones, and even some expensive ones, are actually low in nitrates, so they aren't helpful. In fact, research shows that a serving of fresh beets provides significantly more antioxidants, nitrates, and nitrites than most daily portions of those powders or supplements. A recent study showed that 64% of the products tested did not meet the claims on their packaging. So either go with fresh beets or a brand that is lab tested and can show you proof of their nitrate content. Now, let me tell you about powders that work even better than beetroot powder without that huge oxalate risk. The best two options are arugula powder and celery powder. Both arugula and celery powder work to boost erectile health the same way as beetroot. They don't use L-arginine's pathway to boost nitric oxide levels. Instead, they're rich in nitrates, which are activated by the bacteria in saliva and gradually converted into nitrites and then into the amazing molecule of nitric oxide, the very molecule that widens blood vessels and improves circulation and blood flow. The difference between arugula and celery powder is that, unlike beets, arugula and celery don't contain oxalates. That means if you have kidney problems or arthritis or you worry about them, you can safely take them regularly as steady support for your blood vessels and your erections. Arugula is actually one of the most nitrate-dense vegetables out there, even higher than beets. So if you're low on nitrates, adding arugula powder to your daily smoothie or drink can make a real noticeable difference. Celery powder is packed with antioxidants, vitamin C, and vitamin K, and it contains a flavonoid called apigenin, which actually helps reduce inflammation and supports vascular health. In fact, a review called The Cardioprotective Role of Nitrate-Containing Vegetables found and summarized how nitrate-rich veggies like beets, arugula, and celery affect cardiovascular health and blood flow. The scientists found that even in a short period of time, nitrates from these vegetables significantly boosted nitric oxide levels in the blood. The results were clear: better vasodilation, meaning the blood vessels open wider, better blood pressure, and stronger erections. Here's something most men get wrong with these powders. They take them randomly, whenever they remember, sometimes at night, sometimes midday, thinking timing doesn't matter. But it does. Timing matters more than you think. Your body's nitric oxide production peaks in the morning, especially when combined with certain foods that amplify the nitrate to nitric oxide conversion. In fact, a 2019 study in the Nutrients Journal found that morning nitrate intake increased plasma nitric oxide by 47% more than evening intake in men over 50. Taking arugula or celery powder first thing in the morning, ideally 30 to 60 minutes before breakfast or with your morning meal, creates a synergy that multiplies the effect. That's when your circulation is primed, your digestive enzymes are active, and your body can convert those nitrates most efficiently. Take it at night? You might get some benefit, but you're missing the metabolic window when your body does its best work. And speaking of morning synergy, I recently covered specific breakfast foods that, when combined with these powders, create a powerful effect that can make you feel like you're 18 again in terms of energy and erectile strength. So let's talk dosage. The studies tested different amounts, but on average, about 400 milligrams of nitrates per day from vegetables was enough to show improvement in circulation and blood pressure. For arugula powder, that means 1 to 2 teaspoons per day, which is about 3 to 6 grams of powder. This is equivalent to roughly 100 grams of fresh arugula and contains around 300 to 400 milligrams of nitrates. For celery powder, 1 teaspoon per day, about 3 grams, contains around 200 to 300 milligrams of nitrates. You can combine both arugula and celery powders to hit that 400 milligram daily target for optimal results. If you still choose beetroot powder despite the oxalate concerns, use 1 to 2 teaspoons, about 5 to 10 grams, but be mindful of the kidney and joint risks. I'll be real with you. The raw powder doesn't taste the best on its own. It's better if you use it fresh, but if you mix it into a smoothie or take it as a supplement, it actually tastes pretty good. And it's one of the most natural and effective ways to keep your erection strong. Let me share a quick example. Billy, 58, an accountant, had been struggling with weak erections for over a year. After just a couple of days of adding arugula powder to his morning routine, he told me he felt his bulge was stretching his sweatpants again. That's the kind of real-world result these powders can deliver when you use them correctly. Now, diet definitely plays an important role in improving erections. But if your pelvic floor muscles are weak, nutrition alone won't fix the problem. So make sure you're addressing both angles for the strongest, most reliable results. This is Dr. Laura Bennett. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.